Let's get into it. Coach Colin news here. This is a very sad situation that I'm about to show you guys. This guy, teacher, history teacher, white history teacher, goes on this little rant about how he feels if someone is racist towards him for being white, or any white person, that it's completely justifiable. Now, I just want to say right away, that's not true. You know, racism of all kinds is just, it's nonsense. And the fact that this guy is so infected by the woke mind virus that he is willing to subject himself to racism and deem that okay, and possibly, friends, I don't know if the guy has kids, is so wild. This stuff runs so deep. This ideology that these people get into, it runs so deep. It's so wild. Listen to this guy talk about this.
You wrote, so if someone that isn't white hates on a white person based on their skin color, what do you call that? You're not going to like my answer. I call it justifiable. White-bodied people have conquered and colonized almost this entire planet. As a history teacher, I teach my students about the scramble for Africa, in which all of these European countries came together to decide which parts of Africa they were going to colonize. And then about the age of exploration, in which Europeans sailed over to the Western Hemisphere and committed genocide against any and every indigenous population they came across. And then I teach about the transatlantic slave trade, and then slavery, and then Jim Crow, and then the war on drugs, and then mass incarceration, and then about people that deny the experience of Black, Brown, Indigenous, and other people of color to this day. So you ask me what I call a person that hates on a white person because they're white? I call them a reasonable human being who's just making decisions based on reason and experience. You wrote, so if someone that isn't white...
I dropped my mouse. I gotta figure this out without a mouse now. The battery came out and everything. But yeah, this guy's actually really sad. This is a sad dude. He's sitting here saying it's justifiable. If someone does this to him, they're being reasonable. That is how much the woke mind virus sweeps over people. I've seen videos of white people kissing feet. I think we all remember Nancy Pelosi and a bunch of government officials all wearing like some African scarves or something, and they were all taking a knee in some big hall. It's so wild how deep this stuff goes. And again, I'll say it again. This is very sad. Because this guy, imagine if you heard a black person say, yeah, well, you know what? Back in the day, apparently my ancestors have no idea who they are, but, that's what it is. They were slaves. So, if somebody treats me lower than they are, it's completely justifiable. They're being a reasonable person because, slaves back. You'd be like, bro. You'd grab that guy by his shoulders and you'd say, hey, man, what are you talking about? It's 2024. You live in America. Clean yourself up. What are you talking about right now? Could you imagine that? Well, if somebody assumes I have a firearm and they assume I'm a part of a gang, it's just justifiable. There's just so many of them around doing that sort of thing. I look just like them. No, man. No. And, it's especially sad when I see stuff like this because I have a white wife and I have a half-white kid. I'm never going to teach them that. I'm never going to teach them one side of them is great and can do no wrong and the other side is terrible. It's craziness. But again, that's how deep this ideology runs. And you know what's really sad about this is that this guy is just one of those guys that just doesn't want to be the enemy. And he's been taught that he is the enemy. He's been taught that his ancestry that he has no idea about, probably doesn't even know 8 generations back. He probably just knows Europe. He probably doesn't even really know. And he's just been taught over and over again that he's a colonizer, that he benefits from this system, even if he still has to work hard, he still has it wildly better than everybody else. Plus he's a man, plus he's straight, I'm assuming. And all of those together, when you're in the realm of woke, like it's Narnia. You go through a wardrobe and then everybody has blue hair and they all have these big hoop nose rings. And you're like, where am I? And they're like, there's no meat here, dude. Do you want to eat this? And it's just like a pile of crickets. And they're like, here, we own nothing. We're happy. They start trying to pierce you. They say, yeah, you need a nose ring. You have to run off, but they can't catch you because they haven't eaten meat in weeks. They just pass out and fall asleep on the floor. That's what happens. That's what happens. It's the realm of woke. And you can't say anything or else you'll offend people. And if you offend people, that's when, the gloves are off and you get executed. I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules. You get canceled. That's how it works. But yeah, it's just so wild how deep this has gone when you're in the realm of woke, that you even get to a point, especially as a white person, when you're going to be severely left leaning as a white person, you're going to go through this type of reprogramming. Because I'm sure when this guy was a kid, he didn't think so badly of himself. I bet it's only happened in the past 6 years. Because if you don't give in, if you're in some circles and you don't give in to what this guy said, especially as a white person, right away, you're pushed aside. You're pushed aside. You're problematic. You're being a little misogynistic. You're not being agreeable. You're hard to get along with. You have this attitude. And the guy's a teacher. He probably has to deal with this stuff all the time. It's so sad. I think it's really sad. I know you hear it, and it's probably, especially if you're a white person and you're normal and you hear this, you're like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not going in for this. And you shouldn't. It's just so sad that this guy did. And he really thinks that now. Now he really thinks that he's bad. I'm telling you, it's just as bad if some kid who was black thought he was just all bad because of what some other people did in his past or are currently doing in other neighborhoods. That stuff's not linked to you, man. That stuff's not linked to you. And, I'd say that we would all obviously say that to black people. And of course we have to say that same thing to white people. That's stuff that your ancestors did. Maybe you don't even know. That's not linked to you. That's not why you have the things you have. I mean, people try to build that mental gymnastics up that, oh, well, it's all this stuff and, oh, man, it's just this system. It's just built for you. It's like, what are you talking? No, it's not just built for you. You don't just naturally have it easier because you're white. You just don't. There's so many different cities. There's so many different people. There's so many different states that you can't just be like, oh, well, I'm white, so I just have it easier everywhere. What are you talking about? Go to like Harlem. You have it easier in Harlem because you're white? You're going to go to Brooklyn and you're going to go to the Bronx and be like, hey, I have it white, so I'm going to have it a little. You're going to go to Compton and say that? I have a little easier than the rest of you gentlemen. I'm going to go live over there. And, I'm just going to benefit from the system around me. That's how it's going to go. Watch how it goes. There's some places where, you're in the hood. You're not going to benefit from being white. It's going to be bad. And you know what? Also, right now, just as people, even as a white person, you may be treated worse, even outside the hood. That was just a joking example. But, you go to a university. You go to a university and you want to be a man that speaks up and is assertive, you're going to, especially as a white guy, as any color guy right now, but especially as a white guy, oh yeah, you're going to get shot down. You're going to get treated badly. I'm just getting so tired of seeing the open racism towards white people. Like, it's just so crazy. Because here's the thing. If there was open racism towards black people back in the day, well, that's terrible. And it's not better now because it's happening to white people. I'm not like, yeah, get your comeuppance. Like, no, it's the goal is to stop all this, right? And it's funny because all these movements, they always talk about, we just want everything to be equal. And then it gets a little bit close and they're like, yeah, let's actually have it right here. Actually, right here is real good. Yeah, you stay down there. It's always these weird plays for power. And if you notice, it's always whoever is not the most powerful, but the most threatening in society, as in they can get the most done. Back in the day, and this is the thing that's happening right now with white men. Back in the day, this is what used to happen to black men. If you were strong and you were assertive and you spoke up and you had a good build and you were a man, you would get shot down. You could get, the process of, buck breaking. It wasn't exactly the same thing, but if you were cocky, you get put in your place. And now they've taken the same template that they were doing to white people in the 60s and 70s, 80s even, and now they're doing it to white people. And it's not any better. You should be able to look at racism of all kinds and be like, no. And there's so many people right now that see white racism and they're like, that's not, I couldn't imagine as a black person going through racism and someone looks at me and says, people can't be racist to you. Could you imagine? That's what white people have to deal with all the time. No one can be racist to you. You've had it good for so long. It's nuts because anybody can say that to a white person of any age. Somebody could be 22 years old. You've had it good for so long. And it's like, what are you talking about? I was a teenager a few years ago and then I was a kid. What are you talking about? What? You've had it good for so long. I'm 78 years old. I had to go to war. What are you talking about? Like, it's such a scam. And again, and it's made to just divide us. Racism of any kind is always made to divide people. And again, when I hear a guy talk like that, he's like, reasonable. It's almost like, the movie Get Out? The movie Get Out where there's people inside of black people's heads. It's like he is in the movie Get Out and there's like a chick with like neon green hair inside of his head and she's like possessed him. I'm saying this is reasonable. Like, what? No, shake him. Wake that guy up. This is terrible. Again, I have to say, if I heard a black person talk like that, if we all heard a black person talk like that guy was talking, we'd all be like, hold on a second, buddy. Like, you okay? You good? And you hear a white guy talk like that. Nowadays, it's become normal. It's not even just normal. It's seen as progressive. It's seen as that man is very smart and he's aware of his privilege and he's aware of his position in the world. And the fact that he's okay with being treated less than because of the color of his skin is a good thing. Like, what? I can't wrap my head around it, man. I can't wrap my head around it. I hate to see it. Do you know how, bro, I might go to tears if my wife came, because I have a white wife. If she came to me and said that, I might start crying because it's such a demeaning stance to take. It's such a disrespecting stance to take for yourself. It's so funny that these same people who think they're so progressive and everything, they always bring up MLK, but the one thing he said is the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And all these people are focused on now is the color of your skin and what gender you are and what your preference is and microaggressions and like every single thing into these subsections of subsections constantly. Like, this is not what MLK was looking for. He was looking for everybody to just chill out and just be together and be okay being around each other. And let somebody's actions be the thing that you look, bad actions be the thing that you look down upon them for. Their lack of integrity, their lack of respect, maybe a propensity to violence, whatever it is. But just the fact that you exist is a problem. I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I think this is ridiculous. And you know what else is ridiculous? There are some people of my color who will see me saying this and be like, that guy hates himself. This is self-hatred. It's I'm telling you, you can't win, man. You can't engage in these thought processes. They're not set up to lead the world into a better place. They're set up by someone who is trying to keep people divided and fighting so they can acquire more power. I think I summed it up pretty good. Like, subscribe, share. Don't be racist. And don't let anybody be racist to you. Jeez. Let's get into it. Or let's go. It's late. I'm out.